Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires, and our guest today is a very special person. The ink is probably not even dry on his honorary degree, his honorary doctorate degree that he just received from Drexel University. Our guest today in the studios of Radnor Studio 21 in beautiful downtown Wayne is James E. Marks, or Jim, as those of us who know him and love him like to call him. And every time you see an apartment building anywhere from Bala Cynwyd to, I don't know, to Harrisburg probably, that has a maroon and white Marks and Company written on the sign, it's that Marks, who's Marks and Company. Jim, thank you for coming to the studio.
You're welcome.
Now, how exciting was it to receive an honorary degree from your alma mater, Drexel University?
That was a very exciting and special time. There were only two of us that day at that particular commencement exercises. The other person was that great woman tennis player who beat Bobby Riggs, Billie Jean.
Billie Jean King. Oh, I love. Does she have a Drexel degree?
No.
But now she does. She has an honorary doctorate.
That's true.
What was her honorary doctorate for?
It had something to do with sports management. I don't know what the exact name was.
And what was your honorary degree for?
It was for business administration. I had gotten a master as business administration many years ago at Drexel.
But you did your undergraduate work there as well, right?
That's right. I have a Bachelor of Science in mechanical engineering.
And if people drive down Chestnut Street, past my alma mater, Penn, you get to this brand new block square building that's how many stories high? I don't know, 8, 10. It's big. Mm-hmm. And at the very top, it says the James E. Marks Tower. I cheer every time I see that. And then, real big at street level, James E. Marks. Yeah.
That's true.
And what's in that building that belongs to you? Because you were really a pioneer in starting some programs at Drexel University.
That was a different building. But in this particular building, this is a dorm. There's 800 and some units. On the first floor, there's stores, Barnes & Noble, bank.
I think there's a coffee shop on the first floor, too.
Yes, I think so, the Shakes. But it's a dorm unlike what you remember if you went to college. I was in one of the rooms. There are 4 bedrooms in a row. There's 2 bathrooms, one at each end of the hall. They have a large living room, and they have a kitchen and a space to eat. But also in that same building, in the lower level, they have one of those golf course video things where you take the shot and the computer picks up where the ball would have been.
It's a Wii game?
No, it's not that kind of thing. You actually tee off as if you're on this particular course, and then you take the next shot from where you are, and you're actually playing golf with the video showing where the ball went.
The students must love it.
Yes, and they have a theater there, and so those are wonderful facilities. It's worth it to go to Drexel just to be in that dorm.
Did they invite you to give them some recommendations since you own so many apartments?
No, this is a specialty. And the outfit that runs it, I believe, is in Texas. They have some 25,000 beds spread out through the country at different colleges.
25,000.
Yes, they're experts. They do a wonderful job.
Ooh. Well, it's very interesting because whenever you talk to anybody in higher education these days, they say the students, they need a high-definition television. They need wireless.
They do.
They need all these technological miracles that didn't even exist when we went to college. They probably didn't even have television when you went to college, right?
When Apple came out with the first computers, Drexel was the first university that required every student to use a computer, and they gave them a computer. And it's interesting how that happened. It's also the way I became a trustee. I was in Florida, and my wife invited another couple that was in the same complex as we were, renting for a month or so. And the man happened to be the science editor of, I think it was the Time magazine. So I told him that Drexel was requiring people to have computers. That was strange back then.
It was revolutionary.
Yes. So I said, you ought to come down and see it. So he came, and he came with a camera person.
Wow.
And they took pictures, and we had a full page in Time magazine.
Oh, they must have blessed you.
Oh, they did indeed.
That was under Papadakis, right?
No, it was before
Oh, before
Papadakis.
Papadakis even.
Yes. In fact, before that, before we started giving out computers like that, Steve Jobs, who he pronounced his name Jobs, but everybody says Steve Jobs, he came to Drexel and talked to the people, an assemblage of people, about what was coming and what computers were brand new. People never thought about a little tiny thing like an a Mac computer.
Sure, because the original computer, the ENIAC, was at my alma mater, Penn, but it's probably bigger than the studio.
It is.
I mean,
It is.
yes,
It's
right.
bigger than this room.
Yeah.
And now, just to think what we can do on a little iPhone.
Well,
It's unbelievable.
well, this is a BlackBerry.
Whatever.
You need
They're
to be.
all handheld.
I don't have engineering degrees from Drexel, and that's what you need, according to me, in order to use an iPhone or an iPad. I love my BlackBerry, but
I might be able to give you a recommendation.
there's now a wristwatch that's also a computer.
Yes.
Did Apple come up with that?
Yes, you have to have very small fingers.
Or very good eyesight. Either
That's
one.
true.
Either one.
But it was really a revolutionary step to have homework on your computer. My grandchildren now who go to a school in New York, all their homework has to be turned in on the computer. The
Really?
assignments are on the computer. Everything is on the computer.
What are your grandchildren's names?
Peter and Anne, they're twins. She's 2 minutes older, and lets it be known that she's 2 minutes
And she
older.
bosses him around, right?
They each have their own.
Anyway, how do you get your name at the top of a tower of a new building at Drexel?
In the dead of the night, you hire a truck.
No, but I mean, I do.
I had another building named for me, the Intercultural Center, which was a meeting place for people of all religions, all faiths, all ethnicities.
And
meet
all
together.
sexual preferences.
Yes.
And that was
Absolutely.
revolutionary.
Yes.
It really was, because I was lucky enough to be there at the dedication of that first building.
Yes. And after,
And that was
I think
even
it's
before
4 years ago.
That was before Vanity Fair put Caitlyn Jenner on the
That's
cover.
true.
Long before.
That's true. And it was a very popular building, and they had many meetings there, and it was working out very well. And the university decided to move that facility to another facility on the campus. They tore down that particular building, and there's a boutique hotel going up on that spot
Oh.
right now.
Interesting.
If you go to Drexel, I think we have 3 cranes working at the same time in different places.
Oh, I know. It's like tough to
unbelievable.
get down Chestnut Street to get from 34th to 30th Street because there's construction all the time. But I do a lot of good deeds for my university. But they didn't name anything after Bonnie Squires.
I see.
What does it take to name something the James E. Marks Tower?
They tear down one building and they put your name on another building.
But what did it take to get your name on the first building?
I have
Don't be modest.
No idea.
Oh, please. Okay, well, I can tell you what it said when in the program that you got your honorary degree. It said, over the years, he's also distinguished himself through his leadership as a longtime trustee and benefactor of the university. I think benefactor
That might be an operating word,
is code word for big-time donor, right?
possibly.
And you had been on the Board of Trustees from 1988 to 1995. That's a long time to serve. And it costs a lot of money to be a trustee at a university because they're always hitting you up for contributions. Is scholarship your main thing?
You know, you give money to the university and they use it as best they see fit.
You trust them.
Well,
Okay.
they know better than I do what they need to do.
But how did you get to be the owner of 14 apartment complexes in this region? You didn't start out, I mean, your father didn't
No.
bequeath you any
No.
apartment buildings, did he?
No, no. When I got out of college, I worked as an accountant, and I lasted about 6 months. I could not stand that job, and I was fired because I used to go home early, 15 minutes, and then 30 minutes. By the time I think it was 45 or maybe the first hour, they fired me. I had had a stack of checks this high on as 2 tables worth of checks, and I had to do this and check it off because there had been an embezzlement. And I had to do this and check this off. And my hand got tired after a while.
Deadly
So
boring.
yes, so I quit. And my father had told me, and I think this is very valuable. I'm doing it for my grandchildren. I did it for my son. If you're starting something and you're working hard at it and you're competent and you're rising a little bit, there's a tendency to want to stay because you have some experience. He said, stop, make a fresh start. I will keep you financially okay for that interval. So I did, and I went to a mortgage company, and where they had a Drexel graduate, and I got a job there, and they put me into a training program, and then I was on my way. But I had happened to be very, very fortunate in writing a master's thesis on sale leaseback financing. And
What
the
does that
president,
mean, sale leaseback financing?
It's a financing tool where the university and a profit company, I think it was Litt Brothers at the time, the first one in Philadelphia, University of Pennsylvania and Litt Brothers. And Litt Brothers sold, or the university bought Litt Brothers and took back a lease. And Litt Brothers then had all that capital from selling their thing, and they just paid essentially rent.
But they stayed where they were.
Yes, they stayed where they were because they had a long-term lease. So
And you did your master's thesis on that.
and the president had just done that deal. So the treasurer, who was a Drexel graduate, said, you know what, just go down and talk to the president. And he happened to be in.
President of the mortgage company.
Yes. And he hired me. Says, time. And that's how I got my start in that company.
How long were you with that mortgage company?
I went there, I was there for 13 years, and then the president sold the company to that great bank, First Pennsylvania Company,
Oh, First Pensy.
which is no longer here.
Well, a lot of banks are no longer here, unfortunately.
So I was lucky that I was working for him. So I had a choice, go with a bank or start your own company. So I knew what I was doing, and I started my own company. I built out in Valley Forge, on Valley Forge Mountain.
Oh, you didn't
First
buy,
houses.
you built.
Yes.
Oh, you built houses.
Houses. And
Private homes.
that was a struggle because there's a lot of work in building a house properly. And we were building cesspools and things there's no sewerage out there. And every night I got a call from the man digging the hole. The inspector came out and said, hole's no good, there's clay down the bottom, start again. I remember his name, I called it, here's a telephone call from Henry Bad News D'Antonio. He was a wonderful man, but we just I said, this is not for me. I want to build something that I can keep.
Oh, sure, because every time you build a house, you have to sell it, and that's the end of it.
And then you're out of business.
Yeah.
Then you start again. That was not for me. So I went to see John O'Hanlon.
How many houses did you build the first time around?
When I was with the mortgage company, Well, the last job we were working on was a 800 house job in New
800.
Jersey, yes. But
Ooh.
before that, I had finished a 262 house job in Abington.
That's like the original Toll Brothers. You were the original Toll Brothers.
Now we went to Long Island to see what Levitt was doing, and we copied his way of building. And we built 3 houses a day.
3 houses a
3
day.
houses a day.
You built and finished 3 houses a day.
You don't start from scratch and build that particular house. You have an assembly line. So they're all in different stages of construction, but 3 of them came off the assembly line every day.
That's amazing.
Well, that's the way you were able to do it very cheaply and very structurally well done, because they were doing it over and over, and they had jigs and everything was exactly right. And those were wonderful days after World War II.
Now, when you went into the apartment business, did you buy an existing apartment house or did you
No,
build
I'll
an
tell you.
apartment house?
I said I want to start to go into the apartment house market, because if one person moves out of an apartment house, you have a very low vacancy rate. If one person moves out of an office building, say they have a whole floor or 2 floors, you have a very large vacancy rate. So I
Interesting.
decided, being conservative. So I went to Suburban Square, where John O'Hanlon had an office, and I said, I want to build apartments. He said, well, how about that place right over there? It was across the street from Suburban Square. And there was a sign on it for sale, or there was a house there. I said, that's perfect. I'll take it.
Just like that? Mm-hmm. Without inspection or anything?
Well, I'm going to tear the house down
No, but I
and
mean,
put an apartment
the
house
ground, didn't you have to sample the ground?
there. No,
or
there were things all around it, so I figured,
it was
you
safe?
know, if it's a good site and a perfect thing. So I just decided I'd buy it. Not conservative, is it?
Where did you get the money? Or did you max out credit cards?
No. I managed to find a wonderful, wonderful man who was an investor, and he was my partner. So with his money, we bought the property, we built it, we filled it up, and the mortgage paid back for the ground and the building. He got all his money back. He paid me for building it, and we were 50-50 partners.
How long did the partnership last?
Until he died, and he was a wonderful one. We made a partnership. We signed it, and I never think we looked at it again.
What was his name?
Bob Fleischer, wonderful, wonderful man.
How long were you in business together?
Oh, I think maybe 15 years, I would
It's
guess.
a long time.
Yeah.
It's longer than most
Well,
marriages last.
yeah, well, I did all the apartment work and the management and everything else, and he was busy with other things, but he had made a good investment.
I guess so. And now you have 14 apartment
I have that
complexes?
left. I used to have a lot more. I used to have a lot in Philadelphia. In fact, one of the buildings, the Mayfair House on Lincoln Drive
Oh, sure.
at Johnson Street,
I just passed that the other
beautiful,
day.
beautiful building. You didn't pass the building because the building was torn down and there's now grass there. 17 stories, I think it was.
Well, there's a sign that
244
says
units.
Mayfair. I thought so. I thought it was Mayfair.
There's no building there now.
Oh,
Because when it first opened, it was a very fancy building. It had a club on the roof, my partner tells me. He used to go there in a tuxedo and evening gown by invitation. And it had a ballroom, and I eventually bought it and ran it. And it used to be a very fancy neighborhood, which declined over time.
it's coming back, though. Mm-hmm. The millennials are taking over the world, so
Well.
wherever they move,
They're not going to take over that building because it no longer exists.
unfortunately.
Yeah. I remember when I sold it, I think I sold it maybe in September or August. That's my mind. But a few months later, like when it was very cold and snowy, the boiler blew up. And the TV people were out there with the cameras, and all the tenants were on there, and I said, "Thank goodness I am not the owner of this building at this time."
How many phone calls a week do you get from people who have a running toilet or something happened in their apartment?
Not too many, but we have a company that services that, so we can get
So
right in
if the
there.
stove doesn't work, you don't have to go fix it.
No, I don't do that anymore.
you
I have a
don't.
vice president who's very good.
Okay. Did you used to do that years ago?
Yes, sure I did.
Are you a good fixer, man?
No, I am no good. I remember, and this is why. Once, when I was a little kid, my father decided, who was not a great mechanic either, he decided to replace our toilet seat. You know, we had a one bathroom house, row house. So he got out a wrench and he's pulling and pulling on the bolts to loosen them that hadn't been loosened in many, many years. All of a sudden it gave way and the wrench smacked into the porcelain and cracked it. So now we need a new toilet.
Oh,
So now the plumber comes. He takes up the toilet and rips a tile underneath it and breaks the pipe that serviced the toilet.
oh no.
So we had to
Oh.
replace the pipes and the floor and a new toilet and then the seat. And I decided then and there, if you're not good at it, don't try it.
That's funny. My father was left-handed, and we always blamed that on the fact that he was the least handy husband we had ever seen. My mother and I were good at fixing things, but not my father. Was a very smart businessman, but he could not fix things. He was good at calling a workman. That he was very good
I
at.
could see, yeah. Well, that's necessary. You have to have a good Rolodex.
You were close with Papadakis, right?
Yes, I was a trustee at that time. He was really a very good president. And John Fry, the president now, is
Fry's-
terrific.
Fry has done an amazing job, because if you think it was easy to follow and act like Papadakis, he was, I mean, there was Peter Leocoris at Temple for many years, and then there was Papadakis at Drexel, and they were visionaries, and they were leaders in the community, and they did things that nobody else would have had the guts to do. So for Fry to have left Penn, my alma mater, and taken over after Papadakis died.
Well, he went to Franklin and Marshall. He was president.
That's right. He was President Franklin and Marshall.
Yeah.
Well, Penn trained him, so then he went to Franklin and Marshall, and then he became Penn's next door neighbor. And Fry is now everywhere, just the way Papadakis was.
Different. Papadakis was terrific. He had great vision, and we even wound up with a campus outside of Seattle. Fry can count, you know, he doesn't. So he's very careful about the financial side of the thing, and also expanding and doing wonderful things in the neighborhood, and really running the university. He's the perfect man to follow Papadakis. He's careful. We're not going to overexpand, but we're not going to just be a dead fish in the water. He's really doing things.
Drexel is very expensive. I don't know if it's as expensive as Penn.
Somebody
for
told me the
tuition.
other day it's $70,000.
Oh my God.
I think that includes,
Room and board
yeah.
and books and everything.
but that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But they must now.
They
Penn,
help people out, though.
Oh yeah,
with
they have
financial.
financial aid and
Yes.
scholarships and so on.
Yes, they do.
But even though it's so expensive compared to state schools, which have also risen tremendously in price, but nowhere near what the privates are, the enrollment has not suffered.
No, we're really changing things around. We now charge for an application. You know how kids sometimes send away 10,
10,
12?
15.
Yeah. But now with a charge, we cut down on it. So that means that the people who send it in are really, really interested.
They're serious.
Well, that's true. It's a tough thing for $70,000. Is a lot of money.
Ooh. Well,
And
it puts.
it all depends on how much you can get for financial aid if you need it.
Yeah. Well, it's a strain on the family, but you don't want, I mean, that's one of the campaign themes for next year's presidential election. that they don't want young people to graduate from college with the burden of
Those huge
of
loans.
their student loans. And I've seen articles recently where people brag about the fact that they never repaid their student loans. I don't think that's
Yes.
right either.
No, I don't. You know, there's one thing about Drexel that's unique, and not only to Drexel, but it's a unique thing, and that's that cooperative thing. You go out into industry. Many of the people who work at Company A, and then the next time they go out, Company B, by the time they graduate, they have a job waiting for them because they've had experience. The people in the companies know them. They know what they can do, and they just continue on. And let me tell you about that. I remember when I went out into the co-op jobs, and
It's been around a long time.
Oh, yes.
That cooperative.
You had to say it.
No, well,
But I'll tell you, this is what happened. I went out into a company up in the northeast section of Philadelphia. I started as a assistant engineer or something like that. I was careless. I got a demotion. I was careless in the next job. I worked then on the what do you call it? The line, building things. They were building oscillators. I was careless
assembly
there.
line.
Yes.
I can't picture
I was
you
an
on an
assembly
assembly
line.
line.
Then I was pushed down another time to the shipping department.
Ouch.
Now, these things look, they're the size of a refrigerator. It was during World War II. I was too young to be in it. And you packed it so it would be shipped like to the Pacific. You had to pack it a special way with special paper and to make it waterproof, and the Excelsior and a wooden crate, and you had to band the crate and all that stuff, and you previously had put the serial number down of what was in that crate. And I remember finishing one and forgetting to put the serial number down.
Oh, my.
That did not go
This is
well.
like a Woody Allen
Then
movie.
I did it again.
Oh.
So I was demoted the seventh time to sweeper. And I would have been fired, except that I only had another week or so to go. But that experience of being careless instead of being careful and really precise, the way the math courses at Drexel are just fearsome. I remember, at high school, at Overbrook High School, always having a 98, 99 in math, never taking books home, and to have repeat math at Drexel for the first year in algebra. Repeat algebra, you know everything. First test, 33.
Ooh.
Second test, 20.
Ooh.
Third test, 0. And then a meteoric rise to 10 and 20 and something. And because of that rise and like a 55 in the finals, the teacher conditioned me. That means you have another chance 3 months later to take the exam again. If you pass, you go on. If you don't, you go back to the beginning or go to Penn. Sorry. But it was really a lesson. Those two things were very, very valuable because they teach you this is what life's about.
Well, a lot of successful people say they learn more from failure
Exactly.
than from success.
And that's why those co-op jobs are great. You can see what you like, or you can see you're a mess and you better change, or you're going to have an unhappy business life.
Right. Well,
and that was very, very important.
Dr. James E. Marks.
Yes, ma'am.
It's been a pleasure to speak with you and learn all about your history. And Drexel University is very happy that you went to Drexel, I'm sure.
I hope so.
We'll see everybody next week.
Thank you.